Джек Тигл, автор комиксов.
Sure, I really wanted to try the foods. I've had some horse dishes and rice and things like that. Fortress man. I know that he's drawn a rocket, but the way that I imagined it is he's actually got a rocket inside his stomach, so it can fly out, and these little army bases. So he's like 100 meters tall and just walks around going, and just shooting rockets out of his stomach. So yeah. So you learn a little bit of everything on the course, and you learn how to use Photoshop and the computer and things. But for the most part, you really have to teach yourself a lot of the.
Сегодня у нас в гостях Джек Тигл, автор комиксов. Рада приветствовать вас.
Nice to meet you.
Так, Джек, первый вопрос. Как долетели до Алматы?
It was really nice. Usually in the UK, I fly with a budget airline, and I take all my things with me. So I'm cramming lots of books in. So it was just nice to have like a really chilled out way of getting here, and it makes me realise how small the world is, how quickly you can just get from place to place, because I live in a small village and it takes a long time to get to London. So it takes longer for me to get to London than it does to get to here.
Сколько часов в общем вы пролетели?
I had a pretty crazy ride, really, because I went from, it takes me maybe about 4 or 5 hours on a train to get to London, but it's not too bad, but I have to make a lot of different changes, and there's lots of little trains. And then I had a flight to St. Petersburg, which was about 3 hours. And then I went from St. Petersburg to Moscow, and that was a 4-hour train on the express, the really fast one. And then I think it was about a 3-hour flight here from Moscow to Kazakhstan. And yeah, no, like each way it's been like I've been visiting every town and city, so it hasn't been stressful at all. It sounds like it is.
Вам понравилось в Петербурге?
Yeah, it's like everywhere's been amazing. I really wanted to do this trip because I could get to see everywhere, just get a little taste of everything kind of thing.
Перед тем, как перелететь в Казахстан, вы изучали что-нибудь про Казахстан, смотрели ли информацию?
I was just looking up about the history, really, of how you had your independence and that kind of thing, and the food and the culture. I really wanted to try the foods. I've had some horse dishes and rice and things like that, and I know that it means Father Apple. And I went to the market as well, and I saw we have tiny apples at home, and the apples here. So I was like, oh, I see why it's named after apples. It's pretty amazing. I'm so glad I got to go to the mountains, because when you look up things on the internet, you just see these huge mountains. It's been cool.
Кто вы по образованию?
So my education was in art. I studied design illustration at the University of Plymouth in the United Kingdom, and that was about 3 years. And after that, I just taught myself to paint. I taught myself how to make comics. So you learn a little bit of everything on the course, and you learn how to use Photoshop and the computer and things. But for the most part, you really have to teach yourself a lot of the skills, and it all comes together to make comics.
Когда вы начали заниматься комиксами?
My whole life, I've been quite lucky. So in the UK, we had a weekly comic called The Beano and the Dandy, and I always used to read that, and they were sort of funny little stories. And another thing we have 2000 AD, And when I was little, it was a little too adult for me, but then I grew up to start reading it. But at the same time, we had Sonic the Hedgehog comic, and it was written and drawn by the same people that did 2000 AD. And that was really inspiring, reading all that. And then as a teenager, I started reading a lot of manga and Robert Crumb, Daniel Clowes, a little bit of like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko comics. I really liked how crazy their characters were, and I just love reading everything. So it started from there really, childhood, and then crazy things when I was a teenager.
Вы в детстве начали рисовать историю про маленькую утку.
Yeah, that's gonna haunt me forever, I think.
И вот мой сын тоже рисует разных персонажей, и я бы хотел вам показать. Вы можете выбрать одну из них, придумать имя героя и составить какую-то историю.
Oh, yes! Yeah, absolutely. That's it. It's getting hard. It's getting harder to choose now because that's it. I really like that one.
You make a choice.
I've thought of a really good story already. Fortress Man.
Fortress.
I know that he's drawn a rocket, but the way that I imagined it is he's actually got a rocket inside his stomach, so it can fly out, and these little army bases. So he's like 100 meters tall and just walks around going, and just shooting rockets out of his stomach. So yeah.
Какая национальность?
Fortress Man. Wow, he's got to be from Kazakhstan, hasn't he? And yeah, he just protects everyone by shooting rockets.
Он бы хотел использовать этого персонажа у себя в комиксах.
I've got some good ideas because of how big the mountains are as well. You can climb over them, just like get around and
It's big.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Вы очень много коллекционируете комиксов. Самый любимый из этой коллекции?
I have, in the 1970s, Marvel made these oversized, so the regular version of Marvel Comics, your sort of standard US size. And my favourite ones they were called the Treasury Edition, so they made oversized giant versions. And it was a bit like Roy Lichtenstein. I think it might have been because of pop art. They thought, make these giant pages. I think they may have been made at the size that the artist drew at, but my absolute favourite ones were the Jack Kirby ones because his art just looks like pop art. You just got these giant panels, it's so colourful. Yeah.
Есть ли у вас любимый супергерой?
Oh, I can't think. I usually like it when they're down to earth and like a little sad or a little melancholy, and you can relate to them. So I can't think. I think the really early Peter Parker Spider-Man stuff is really good because especially when you're reading it when you're a teenager, you can really relate to him because he's just like a normal everyday kid. So.
Мой сын тоже любит его. Как вы относитесь к экранизациям комиксов?
There's so many of them that it's hard to sort of, but I actually quite like them because in America as well, I can't believe how old it is now. 20 years ago we had Ghost World written by Dan Clowes and that got adapted. You wouldn't believe it, but there are so many films that started as comics that people aren't aware are comics, so it's crazy. So like people, I guess, sell the like option of the rights to have it adapted to film. So I think it's a good thing, because there's a lot of times, like, I mean, even like something like Men in Black or something like that, it was started as a comic. So you're just like, wait, what? Like, it's crazy. All these big blockbusters and even like dramas and love stories. There's like, yeah, it's good. It helps writers get their art scene to a wider audience.
Вы работали с разными издательствами. С каким издательством комфортнее всего работать?
They've all got, yeah. Well, they have been the most laid back, cool publishers, because they've published every single book and they add little bits in, and I'm like, oh, I never thought to include. So they've included my drawings, my artwork, different crazy things, and they've had such wide distribution as well. I think, like, yeah, like the crazy thing is, they've published everything that all my other publishers have ever published, so they are the best.
При создании комиксов вы берете что-то из жизни?
Yeah, it's the same with, I think, why I like Spider-Man, and like when he was like melancholy and sad. My fight comic especially is based on the main character, the devil. I wrote sort of as me, and what I would do in the situations he was in. So he gets sad when his wrestling career doesn't work out for him, and that was a parallel of my life as an artist and struggling to make money as an artist. And Jeff Job Hunter was when I was trying to find a job, and at the time it was really hard to try and find stable work or anything really good. So my first publisher asked me, oh, do you want to do a comic? And that's when I thought, oh, I'll do it about trying to find a job and how crazy it is.
Что по поводу путеводителя по аду?
So the Guide to Hell.
Do you have my phone?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because the reason I wrote that is because I got ripped off for a phone contract because it was so expensive. So I thought, you practically have, a lot of people do have to practically sell their souls to get these phones, because I know in the UK anyway, people go into debt just to be able to afford these nice things. And I know my auntie herself, she had bailiffs, like money collectors, come to her house because she refused to pay the phone contract, because where she lived the phone didn't work, she couldn't get phone signal. And I just thought, it's just how greedy the phone companies are, and crazy things.
Что вас вдохновляет?
I think everything. So, like I said, I read so many different things growing up, like manga and American comics and European comics, and because of the internet, you can read anything from anywhere. I just love being able to go places and like take new things in. But when I was little, we used to have Godzilla and Ultraman films on late at night, and when I couldn't sleep, that used to always be on in the background, and I always had a faint memory of all of those crazy characters, and we had Power Rangers and robots and things. So I think like the bright, colourful, crazy kind of things in my life when I was a kid have really impacted me, and it's always sort of stayed with me. And yeah, I guess a little bit of everything. So then when I was older and I was reading more mature comics, I always liked putting a little bit of sadness in with things, so you have like crazy, colourful pictures and a little bit of sadness as well.
5 вещей, которые вас радуют. Cat?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's just something really silly about them, and they're the easiest thing to draw as well. So when I have to sign books, I just draw a really quick cat. But there's just, maybe it's because there's so many internet videos, like funny internet videos of cats doing stupid things. It's the same with my cat as well at home. She's really silly and does stupid things. So on the cover of Jack Tigl Presents Comics, they all look really serious and like and all this, and then in the corner there's I just like as a joke just love putting the tiny little cat in, just so the idea with drawing cats is don't take life so seriously, it's just like silly little things.
Как вам фестиваль Алмакон?
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been great to meet so many people that like my comics. It's crazy. We sold out of 2 books already. So it's been amazing just to know how much people like them and come along, and people have brought copies that they already own and have travelled to get them signed, and it's been really, really nice.
Насколько популярны альтернативные комиксы в Европе, в Америке?
The ones that are popular in America probably like the wrestling comics I did, because I guess they have loads of wrestling entertainment and stuff like that. It's been crazy to sort of see things like, I think they kind of like the maybe more of the slightly sad stories, but here everyone's got a really good taste. It's very similar to mine here, so I think that's why I've been like, it's been so crazy and popular. It's like over there, sales are always quite sort of level, and it's like, oh, that's doing okay. But here it's like, what? Like people are going crazy because I think you understand my sense of humor way more.
Самый оригинальный подарок от фанатов?
It's not from my fans, but it's from my publishers. They gave me Mariashka dolls. And they had all of my characters on from the comics. But my fans, I think someone made like a birthday cake, and it was to celebrate like the release of all the comics, and it had all the characters on all the different bits of the cake. Somebody has made action figures and little things like that. I can't think. A lot of people get tattoos as well, so but they do it without asking me, so I just get sent photos in my email, just like, oh, I've got this done. So I count those as presents because it's cool to see how much people like the characters.
Вы смотрели фильм «Джокер»?
No, I haven't yet. I really. The funny thing is, because I've come here, I was so busy. Like, I had about a week to be able to see it, and I was getting ready to get my visa and travel because I had to go to Moscow and everything as well. And it was like, oh, I'll see it tomorrow. I'll see it tomorrow. And every day there was a new thing. So I really, really want. Hopefully, it will be in the cinema by the time I get home.
Кино, книги, комиксы от вас, рекомендации?
Of just anything that I could pick, kind of thing. One of my favourite comics, I would say, is 8 Ball by Daniel Klaus, because he just draws like these funny jokes, but they're quite hateful and mean at the same time, because he doesn't like people very much, but it's never like, oh, I really hate. It's just like this quiet sort of like constant complaining. But it's a little bit like Robert Crumb comics as well. And I can't think. My favourite films.
Books.
Yeah, and the books. I guess like my mind just it's gone completely. It changes so much because I just like consume so much media, I guess. I suppose recently I've been reading Roadside Picnic, which inspired Stalker, and I forget the name of the brothers that wrote the science fiction book, but it's I can't remember the director's name, but it's a Russian science fiction story, and it's the one when it's set in the zone and they have to find relics that were left, which were radiated from. Absolutely, but everyone's probably already seen it here. But
Спасибо большое вам за интервью. Было очень прекрасно. Наслаждайтесь Алмаконом.
Thank you so much.
thank you very much.